You know what's wild, man? Every once in a while, somebody shows up in the UFC that makes you stop scrolling, stop talking, stop everything, and just watch because it feels different. It feels like... So when you mix that kind of pressure, that kind of dominance, with the unknown of how far he can take it, you've got the perfect storm for one of the most fascinating stories in MMA right now. What's so wild about this guy is the way he wrestles, man. It's not normal wrestling. It's like watching a bear grab somebody and just drag him wherever he wants. There's no space, no breathing room. The second he shoots, the second he gets his hands on you, it's like you're drowning because he doesn't just take you down. He smothers you. He crushes your will. And the pressure he puts on people is suffocating. It's like quicksand. The harder you fight back, the deeper you sink. And that's what makes his grappling so terrifying. It's not one-dimensional. It's this combination of chain wrestling, insane top control, ground and pound that feels like sledgehammers, and then the constant threat of submission, so you never know what's coming next. You're just surviving, and you see it in his opponent's eyes, that moment when they realize they can't move, they can breathe, and they're stuck under this monster who's whispering in their ear that they're not going anywhere. And that dominance, that relentless pressure is what makes people believe he could be champion, because when you have a weapon like that, you can drag almost anyone into deep water. And the scary part is he does it effortlessly, like he's having fun, like he's playing with you. And then when you add in the fact that he's not just a wrestler, he's got real knockout power on the feet. He's dropping guys, starching them with one shot. It creates this aura where you're like, damn, if he doesn't maul you on the ground, he might just put you to sleep standing. And that's where the whole conversation about his evolution as a striker comes in, because if he can keep developing that part of his game, suddenly he's not just a wrestler with a little striking. He's a full-blown nightmare who can dictate exactly how fight goes. And that's when people start asking, who the hell can actually stop him? What's crazy about watching this guy develop is seeing how his striking has gone from being this raw, almost secondary weapon to something that legitimately terrifies people now. Because in the beginning, everybody thought, okay, he's a wrestler, he's going to shoot, he's going to drag you down, that's his bread and butter. But then you start seeing him throw hands with real confidence, real snap, and you realize he's not just setting up takedowns anymore. He's looking to end fights on the feet. And there's a different level of danger in that, because when a guy with his kind of grappling dominance suddenly starts cracking people with clean, sharp shots, that changes the entire equation. And the power he carries, it's raw, it's heavy, and you can see opponents hesitate. They don't want to overcommit, because if they get clipped, they're done. And if they back up too much, boom, he's on their legs dragging them to the canvas. So that striking evolution, man, it's not just about throwing better punches. It's about creating this insane dilemma for anybody who stands across from him. Like, do you risk the hands or do you risk the takedown? And that hesitation is where he thrives, because it opens up opportunities for him to just dictate everything. And you watch the timing now, the way he feints, the way he sets traps. It's not polished like some lifelong kickboxer, but it doesn't have to be. It's violent, it's efficient, and it's unpredictable, which makes it even scarier, because you can't really prepare for a guy who can launch a bomb and then instantly chain it into a shot. And the crazy thing is he's still evolving. He's still getting sharper, still tightening his mechanics, still figuring out how to use those long arms, that frame, that leverage. And if that progression keeps going, if he keeps adding layers to his striking, then you're looking at a guy who isn't just one of the best grapplers in MMA. He's a guy who can beat you anywhere, any way he wants. And when you combine that with the mindset he has, the savagery, the hunger to prove he's unstoppable, it sets the stage for something terrifying, because then the real question becomes not just how do you defend the takedown, but how do you survive a man who's just as comfortable knocking your head off as he is choking you out. And the thing about all this dominance and all this crazy evolution is that it also brings up the one big question mark people love to debate, and that's the cardio and durability. Because when you're that explosive, when you're that aggressive, there's always this concern about how long you can sustain it. Like we've seen flashes where he storms out of the gate like a wild animal, ragdolls people. Ines tapering off just a little, and that's natural, man. That's physics. You can't go 100% berserker mode for 25 minutes and not pay a price, and opponents know that. They're banking on surviving that initial storm, taking him out of his comfort zone, and seeing what happens when the adrenaline dump hits. And this is where the durability piece ties in too, because if you've built your whole style around overwhelming guys instantly, you haven't had to absorb too many clean shots. But at the elite level, you're going to eat something eventually. You're going to have to deal with adversity. And the question becomes, can you stay composed? Can you still execute when your lungs are burning and a dude across from you is still coming? Because we've seen how much heart he has. There's no doubt about the toughness. He'll push through insane positions and still keep pressing forward. But that fine line between unstoppable and vulnerable shows up when fatigue mixes with damage, when the chaos he thrives on turns into a grind. And that's where critics get louder, because they want to see him tested over 5 hard rounds. They want to see if he can adapt when plan A doesn't work as easily. And if those gaps exist, you better believe the top guys will find them, which makes it fascinating. Because it's not about whether he's great. We already know he's a monster. It's about whether he can carry that ferocity and that style through championship rounds against the absolute best. And if he can push past those limitations, if the cardio and durability evolve the same way his striking has, then the whole conversation shifts from on he can't hang at the top to how long can anyone possibly stop him? And what ties it all together, what really makes the whole package so terrifying, is the mentality and that killer instinct. Because you watch the way he fights, and it's not just about technique or size or conditioning, it's about this primal belief that he's not there to PO. Why the game? He's there to break people, and that mindset is something you can't teach. You either have it or you don't. It's that switch in the brain where the second the cage door closes, it's like he becomes a different animal. No hesitation, no waiting around, just pure forward pressure, and this aura that says, I'm going to drown you until you can't breathe anymore. And what's wild is he doesn't just fight to win rounds. He fights like winning isn't enough. He needs to finish. He needs to make a statement. And that kind of predator energy puts insane pressure on opponents before the fight even starts, because they know if they give him even a sliver of an opening, he'll jump on it with everything. And that's the essence of killer instinct. It's not reckless, it's calculated chaos. It's the ability to sense weakness, smell hesitation, and then just unleash hell in that exact moment. And that's what separates special fighters from everybody else, because plenty of guys are skilled, of guys are tough, but very few have that merciless gear where they don't let you off the hook, and he carries it like a badge, like he's wired to go until someone literally forces him to stop. And when you combine that with the wrestling dominance, the evolving striking, and the questions around how deep he can go in those later rounds, you realize the mentality is what fills in the gaps. Because even when he's tired, even when the body starts slowing down, the mind keeps pushing him forward, and that makes him just as dangerous in minute 20 as in minute 2, because he's not negotiating with himself in there. He's not thinking, and let's survive. He's thinking, let's finish this. And when a fighter carries that level of intent into every exchange, that's when you start asking if he's destined to break through to championship gold, because skill can be matched. Strength can be matched, but that killer instinct, that's the X factor you can't prepare for. And then you look at the L and scape at the very top, man, and that's where the real questions come in, because it's one thing to run through guys early in your career. It's one thing to look unstoppable when you're blasting through mid-tier opponents, but when you're staring across from dudes who've been there, who've held belts, who've defended belts, guys who've been in those 5-round wars and found ways to win even when everything was stacked against them, that's where it gets tricky, because the top of the UFC isn't just killers, it's specialists. It's guys who've spent a decade perfecting the craft of stopping exactly what you do best. So if your bread and butter is wrestling pressure, you've got world-class strikers who've built entire games around punishing level changes. You've got jiu-jitsu wizards who can turn one mistake on the ground into a submission loss. You've got veterans with iron chins and gas tanks that don't fade. And the crazy part is they've all seen hype trains before. They've all watched Ed phenoms come in with insane momentum, and then hit a wall the second they couldn't impose their will. So the question becomes, can this guy's style translate against the elite? Can that relentless pace hold up when someone doesn't fold, when someone stuffs the first 10 shots and still cracks him with a clean counter? Because that's the reality of championship level MMA. It's not about what you can do to lesser competition. It's about whether you can adapt on the fly when your best weapon isn't T enough, whether you can keep your composure when you're cut, when you're tired, when you're down 2 rounds and staring at a legend who's not going away. And that's why the top of the division is so fascinating, because it's not just about skill, it's about experience, it's about that mental toughness that comes from being in wars. And until you go through that, until you survive it and come out the other side with a win, people won't be convinced, because being a champion isn't about smashing everybody on the way up. It's about surviving when the mountain gets steep, and that's the level of resistance he's walking into now. At the end of the day, man, that's what makes this whole conversation so exciting, because you've got this guy who looks like a force of nature. You've got the wrestling, the power, the mentality, the aura, all the tools that scream future champion. But then you've also got the reality check that this sport is unforgiving at the very top. Nobody gets a free pass. And every single question that people are asking, can he strike with the best? Can he go 5 rounds? Can he handle adversity? Can he adapt? Those are only answered inside that octagon, under the lights, when everything's on the line. And that's why fans are glued to this story, because we're watching a monster climb the mountain. And either he's going to plant that flag at the summit and prove he's the real deal, or he's going to get tested in ways that will show us what he's really made of. And honorable. Lee, that's the beauty of fighting, man. You never know. It's chaos. It's raw human will colliding, and it's why we love it. So good luck to him on this journey. I hope he stays healthy, keeps chasing that greatness, because the sport is better when guys like this are in the mix. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. I appreciate you all for hanging out, listening, supporting, and just being part of this crazy ride we call MMA. Stay safe, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next one.